I used to work for DWP. I sued them single-handed 3 times and won. And in this video, I'm going to be telling you 3 things that they do not want you to know about when it comes to bank checks and claim eligibility. Now, before I go on, if you've been scrolling YouTube and you've come across the cartoon creators who are telling you things like DWP are triggering thousands of reviews, just remind yourself who you're taking your advice from. It's easy to create a cartoon. It's harder to win a lawsuit single-handedly against the beast. Now, while some of those channels may seem to be doing you well by recycling quite a lot of my content, I'm telling you on this channel what actually goes on behind closed doors and how claims are assessed, because I used to do it. I've had to break down government policy and create training and train team leaders and work coaches. I've had to assess claims for universal credit. I've had to assess whether somebody would be found gainfully or non-gainfully self-employed when it comes to their business activities. And most importantly, I have had to assess whether somebody's behaviour could potentially be seen as fraudulent. So, if you're finished with the cartoon creators and you're wanting to actually get some real facts, let's go on. So, secret number 1 with the bank statements. And I have mentioned this quite a few times in my playlist that you can find here. The bank statements are not just looking for what you spend your money on. They are looking for patterns of life, lifestyle habits. When they ask for 4 months and 6 months of bank statements, they aren't just looking at the bank balance, they're looking for third-party credits, transfers, unexplained deposits, and large withdrawals. Inside DWP, particularly in the position that I held, we are trained to look for red flag behaviour. I was so good at it, I was asked to write training nationally. Now, your bank statements are quite possibly, I think, being used to train AI. Now, when we are looking for red flag behaviour, particularly we're looking for undisclosed income, which is why I always say be honest about what you do. Even if it's a family member that's helping you with a bill or just lending you some money to get through the month, you need to be keeping very clear logs. The cartoon channels will tell you just to be careful. I'm telling you the legal threshold. And that is why I created the data toolkit. These are actual templated letters that you can use to be compliant whilst protecting your rights. Now, under the new fraud bill or the fear bill, if you don't categorise these deposits and transfers correctly, categorization being the key word, those transactions can be considered as rebuttal presumption of fraud. That's very serious. And once DWP start going down that lane, it's a little bit like a dog without a bone. And you can understand why, when a few years ago, a small group of non-British people frauded, or should I say defrauded, the DWP out of millions of pounds. Rebuttal presumption of fraud means that you are guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. And I've put the exact letter template for that inside of the data toolkit. Now, as a side note, I'm going to address a couple of the comments I've seen from some of these cartoon creators when they're doing a live, probably trying to poach views because of my credibility. So before I even worked for DWP, before I even started the Justice Journals, I was running my very own and continue to run my very own businesses and brands. You see, I have been on the breadline, I have been a single parent, and I have been homeless. I've also been a battered woman in a hostel, and quite frankly, I know only too well when you're in those situations, nobody wants to help you. So over the years, I have curated many different skills so that I could ensure that I never had to rely on the system ever again, because it is no fun having to plead your own poverty just so that you can eat or pay your rent every single month. And I am not going to excuse myself and the years of destitution I've had to go through so that I had to learn the skills that I now have so that I can create my own income online. And if you are somebody that actually is interested in creating your own income instead of moaning about other people that have done something to do that, then make sure you look at the details down below, and it will also include my other YouTube channel, which is dedicated to online business and entrepreneurs. Secret number 2, the algorithmic flag. Now, the AI that organisations like DWP are using isn't necessarily all about spying on you, because it's, in particular with DWP, it is a risk scoring algorithm. That's why you're being asked for your bank statements and then quizzed on it after. All of that data is about user behaviour. It is then being fed, I should imagine, into a system to create certain scores. Those scores are going to be around specific behaviour, unexplained outgoing, unexplained incoming, particularly the ones that exceed incoming benefits. And all I'm going to say right here is quite often the people who think they're clever committing fraud are really not the brightest button in the box. Those claims I have seen. It comes down quite often to simple math. And in particular, if you are someone who is self-employed or you have a company and you are still claiming a type of benefit like universal credit, you need to be keeping very accurate records. And again, I have templates for all of that, because trust me, when you're in a fraud interview, you're going to wish you had the bloody templates that I have provided for you so that you can prove your innocence instead of being accused of being guilty. Again, we have to separate the cartoon creators from the people that actually can give you solid advice. Secret number 3 is the assessor cheat sheet, I think I would call this. Now, this lies particularly in regards to PIP, ESA, LCWRA and LCWA categorizations. Whilst lots of people will banter on about the descriptor list that you can find online, you might want to know that there is actually a hidden descriptor list for assessors. Now, obviously, I cannot share what that is, but I have created the health journal so that you can document your evidence for those types of benefits. Just read between the lines on that one. Now, the assessor cheat sheet is not just looking at what you're saying. They're also looking at what you don't say and the things that you aren't explaining that is on your bank statements and other lifestyle descriptors. So I think that's it today. I thought I would keep this short and sweet because at the end of the day, I think one needs to decide whether they want their defense when it comes to DWP to be a cartoon creator or somebody that used to work there. And of course, for those that actually want the tools, the strategies, the resources, it's all inside the Insiders membership. And it's called that for a reason. Creators that recycle, we keep outside. Simple as that. Now, I think you're going to love watching this video here. So make sure you go along and give it a watch.